I'm Tenitra Batiste, and two evenly matched teams in the worst way. But I mean, they showed up, and it was kind of like the lesser of two evils getting a win, I guess.
I'm Aaron Freeman, and when will this Falcons season be over? Can we fast forward to the offseason?
I'm Jarvis Davis, and that just stunk.
Rise up, A-Town. It's the Falcons Squad. Everything Atlanta Falcons every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the ATL. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Straight from the ATL, the Falcons Squad Show starts now.
Welcome to the Falcons Squad Show, your home for the best Atlanta Falcons football talk. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me are Locked On Falcons host Aaron Freeman and Locked On analyst Jarvis Davis. The Squad Show is also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports network. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. So the defense didn't really do any favors for the Falcons as far as consistency goes. We'll talk about that. And the offense, there were some bright spots, but there were still some disconnects on offense as well. But real talk, the real challenge came from the third phase. And I hate that we have to go back to that today, but that's actually where we need to start, because the Falcons falling short on special teams is why we are talking about them falling 27-24 to the New York Jets today, or at least maybe Jarvis. And you could argue this, maybe that's the main reason, obviously not the only reason. But when you think about the conversations, I'd say last week and maybe the week before, we thought, okay, special teams trending up, or particularly both Aaron and you said last week, not ready to say special teams is back. And I understand why. I mean, the Falcons proved that today. You might look at the final score and say, oh, okay, two things. The Falcons didn't do what Jarvis said they needed to do throughout the season, score at least 28 points. The defense gave up 27 points. So you could look at both of those and say those are the rationales for why the Falcons lost. But really, when you talk about the fact that 10 of those points were really a result of special teams, it's the same song. It's just a different day. Whether it's the field position, you're stressing the defense. We got a kicker that came back to earth real fast. We got a muff punt that led to a score. I mean, Jarvis, it's a hot mess again. Why and how did all of this happen all in the same game?
I mean, when you think about where this team is, it's just some things. These type of things are what we come to expect from this team, right? Like, we have my expectations for this offense coming into the year, score 28 points and be the part of this team, or the section of this team that can hold it down until the defense get to figure out, because they're so young and this is the way they were constructed, and they were constructed to play with the lead. Nah, absolutely not. But this special teams unit, this is a unit that you cannot count on. You cannot count on this team as a unit not just from a kicking standpoint. Zane Gonzalez came back down to earth. Yep, we expect that. I expected that, right? I didn't expect him to make it the rest of his kicks for the rest of the season. Nope, those weren't my expectations. And just from a coverage standpoint, it just timed. I was like, yep, they probably gonna give up a big return here. Exactly what happens, and it's just right on time. Like, and Marquis Williams is not making a good case for him to come back next year. I know people are like, oh, with special teams, not that important. Yes, it is. It's super important when you have a team trying to figure out how to break 5-game losing streaks, and you're trying to figure out a way to stay relevant in your division. All aspects of the team, offense, defense, special teams, have to pay attention to all the details. It's just little. I don't even say little things. It's like it's several things that are just the big issue when it comes to this part of the football, and it hasn't been corrected. We've seen it throughout the year, whether it be inconsistency from your kickers, coverage team unit just not knowing what to do, not expecting anything from getting anything out of your return game. And Jamal Agnew is supposed to be a returner. He was a vet guy, like he's supposed to be the guy that you can actually count on and not really have to be concerned about. But he up here muffing punts and stuff against one of the worst teams in the league. And I love what you said to start us off. this was two evenly matched teams battling it out for a win. And it's unfortunate that and the special teams has spoke to that the entire season. The entire season. It has spoke to being one of the worst units on this team, if not in the league.
Yeah. And Aaron and Jarvis, I got to give you credit for that, because when I heard you say it, I'm like, it couldn't have been said any better. Like, evenly matched. And then I just kind of put my little sauce on it and said they're kind of like the lesser of two evils, like which are the ones, which are the worst of the worst will win. But Aaron, I think also what Jarvis says is painfully true. The fact that we went into a game to see what the Falcons were going to do, we as reporters who cover this team, to say, okay, yeah, it's evenly matched, but at least Falcons, you have 4 wins on the season. This other team has 2 wins on the season. So I'd like to think, hey, you doubled them up. Maybe you, Aaron, and Jarvis and me, we get to talk about a second win in a row, right? Instead, you go to New York and you let a team that just managed to get in the win column twice be able to somehow, in the waning minutes, the waning seconds of a game, figure out how to win. I mean, this team couldn't even find a way to take the Jets to overtime. Like, it's ridiculous. It's disappointing. As someone who watches the comments from our faithful listeners, our faithful viewers, who are hoping every week that maybe something will turn the tide. And yet again, Aaron, we're having this conversation.
Yeah. You guys said it. I couldn't say any better. 2 evenly matched teams, even if the records aren't the same. These are 2 teams that are at the bottom of the NFL. And we were hopeful. We were hopeful coming off of the Saints win last week that, okay, maybe get a different version of the Falcons over these last 6 games. And it's like, nope, same old Falcons, right? Anytime they take a step forward, they're going to take a step back the following week. And we saw that on display. You talk about the special teams as you laid out, T, we weren't ready to say, oh, they fixed it after a good game against the Saints, where that game was kind of a 3-phase win for the Falcons. And this game was kind of a 3-phase loss, not in the sense of like the Jets dominated this game or anything like that, but it was just like, not one phase really kind of stepped up in this game in the ways that you needed them to. Yeah. And that's especially true of the special teams. And like the one player that was arguably having a good game on special teams was Bradley Pinion. Like he had some really good punts, winning the field position battle, pinning the Jets back in the first half, and then had a really good punt right after the Falcons went 3 and out after the 2-minute warning to pin them back in their 15. That, led to the Jets 3 and out. Falcons offense does nothing. And then it's like, okay, well, Bradley, we need you for this 6th and final punt to pin them deep. Done do it. Worst punt of the day. You get a good return. And like, once you saw the Jets are basically like 2 first downs away from being in field goal range, like you knew, I can't speak for everybody else, but I knew at that point, yeah, they're going to get these 2 first downs. Tyrod basically got all the that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay. And like Tyrod basically got the yards they needed to get in the field goal range on the first scramble. And then like we're just sitting there like, okay, are the Jets going to pull off a Jets and screw themselves and basically mess up and get themselves out of field goal range to send this thing in overtime? And unfortunately for the Falcons, and fortunately for the Jets fans, they didn't do that. They tried. They definitely tried in those last 12 seconds. I don't know what they were doing. Just kick the field goal and win the game. And so like you basically had a failure on special teams. The muff punt. I know people were like, good riddance when Avery Williams, wasn't re-signed this offseason. And like, are the Falcons better? Like we've had good returns from Jamal Agnew, but it's been like 2 times this season where it's like, oh, Jamal Agnew, there you are. I see you. Coverage unit once again fails. Kicking game, good for Zane Gonzalez for making a kick in this game, but the Falcons needed him to make one more, and they probably win this game. And so, unfortunately, it's just the same old Falcons where, when you need them to come through, they don't come through.
And that's probably the pain point, because when I look at some of the Jets losses this year, and I'm taking away from the Falcons losses, but when I look at some of the Jets losses this year, it's like, wow, the Jets found a way to lose. Oh, wow, the Jets found a way to lose. And it was like the New York fan base and media put that on repeat. But Jarvis, this has now been the refrain for the Falcons. Like, you found a way to lose today. in every phase. And I think Free might have put it best. You look at the stat line, right? You look at the box score and you think to yourself, hey, Bradley Pinion, 6 punts, averages almost 39 yards on punt. Solid. He gets 5 of them inside of the 20. He gets 1, that's a 55-yarder. But the one where you needed to pin this team and at a minimum just make a march all the way down the field, or at a minimum get it to overtime, and then let's see what the Falcons might be able to do. Maybe there's some magic or something still left in the tank. At every moment, in every phase, they didn't show up in the worst way.
I mean, I'm not. Are you surprised though? Like,
well, you know what, Jarvis? I think.
Let me understand. Let's talk about it, because we about to lay on the couch for the next 49 minutes. So let's figure it out.
I keep doing that to myself, right? I keep thinking, okay, all right, they're going to show up. They're going to show up, or there are moments, and we'll talk about some of the good things we saw on offense and some of the good things we saw on defense. Just like Aaron shouted out the good thing we saw on special teams from Bradley Pinion until we did it. But there are always like these good things that they do, and then I get excited. But I understand the fan base and you guys feeling like, yeah, but I'm waiting on that shoe to drop, because the shoe just keeps dropping. I mean, and for you guys, it's been like the cyclical thing, right? It seems like it doesn't matter what coaches in play, what players take the field. So unfortunately, it's like it's compounding across seasons, across this franchise. But yeah, I shouldn't be surprised. I don't know if I want to say, Jarvis, that I'm full on surprised, but I'm still like, I don't know. I still feel like I'm shocked that we're having this conversation. It just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a daze or haze. Like,
yeah, it's just the big moments, like Free mentioned, when you need, like, you've been solid all game, and then next thing you know, 30-yard punt, 28-yard punt. Or, if it's you really need, to pin them deep, to keep them at least at the 35, for the most part. And then you allow little number 18, Isaiah Williams, to doggone dang to take that bad boy to the crib.
Yes.
And this is how I know this was a different game, and how I knew how this game was going to end. Did you see Aaron Glenn on the sideline? The man was smiling. He was having a good time. I'm sure people who cover the Jets and watch that team haven't seen that often, especially in his post-game pressers, because I've seen those. And he's never smiling. He's, as a matter of fact, he's on edge, seemingly. He seemed like he hadn't had a good time in a long time. But today, he was on the sideline having a good time. He saw his players out there making plays. He saw his guys out there. He saw his special teams unit coming through for him, from a coverage and return standpoint. The kicker, that's a whole nother conversation. We used to that, what I'm saying? So I understand his plight with that. You're not going to smile about that, but it just, when you think about this stretch right here, like these back-to-back games, and what was at stake, and I even found myself just a little bit having a little glimmer of hope. Because I was like, oh, yeah, the Panthers got the Rams today. Oh, yeah, of course the Rams going to beat the Panthers. Oh, yeah, the Bucks are playing against the Cardinals. Baker Mayfield might not play. No, Baker can go out there if he got a sling on his left arm. He gonna get it done. He gonna figure out a way to try to, win this football game for a team. I'm like, okay, might be some light in this division. But no, not at all. Not at all. I know we're going to talk about the offense a little bit later on, but Kyle Pitts having this type of game, and you just can't put it all together.
Yeah.
Bijan going off. You just can't put it all together. So, yeah, when the special teams comes up shout, yeah, I'm gonna throw my little West Side accent in there. When they come up a little shout in the special teams aspect of it, that's what I expect at this point.
So, and I'm going to ask you guys both this question as we wrap up. It's more on the players or more on the coordinator?
I mean, I'm a if you don't make your block or you don't make your tackle, that's a player issue. But when we talk about it week after week after week after week after week after week, that's when you're like, okay, now it's on the coach. So
both on BOFF.
Okay, I'm not letting you get away with that. Which one gets more of the blame? So I'll pose it to you that way.
At this point in the season, 4-8, 12 games in, Marquis Williams. And he got it's your fault. You picked these guys. I don't know a special teams coordinator that has more carte blanche when it comes to final roster decisions than him. It's you. It's on you, Jack. Should have been pounding the table the doggone to have Jalen Walker play more on special team.
Jeff Ulbrich vetoed that, Jarvis. You know that.
I know, but I'm saying, if you're gonna whip out that card during cut downs, you better whip out that card like, hey man, I need help in this coverage unit. Give me somebody that can play football to play on this special teams unit. Because at this point, the adjustments aren't there. It's the same issue. Coverage, punt team from time to time, kicker missing field goals. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've seen this.
Yeah.
You got vets out here muffing punts.
Yeah.
If it was a young guy, okay, I give him, I give him a little leeway. But man, you've been doing this, bro. You've been in the league for however long. Yeah. So at this point of the year, it's definitely on Marquis Williams because you haven't adjusted. And you still running that same crap out there every weekend. And it came up to bite you. Because defense pitched a shutout in the first half.
Yeah.
If your man don't mess up. So yeah.
Indeed. Well, Jeff Ulbrich's unit did its job somewhat, but we want to talk about how, hey, there were some moments there as well where, especially looking at what the third phase didn't do, the defense probably could have stepped up. We'll take that under further review. This episode of our postcast, our squad show rather, is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. Now, if you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. And if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and even in Georgia. Now, if you've been using Prize Picks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs, you know it can be very exciting. Even on a tough day like today with the Falcons losing, it's still exciting when you got Falcons and Hawks on the same day. And the new stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on points, threes, and assists in the same lineup for a player for an NBA game. So that's pretty darn cool. But at that same token, you can also make that pick on a guy like Bijan Robinson, who might be one of your favorite players, to see how the predictions play out. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Okay, Aaron, Jarvis called it. You look at the first half, and the Jets scored 7 points, but we know you can't really put that on the defense, right? But then you look in the second half, and the Jets scored 20, which gets us to the 27-24 final, in which the Falcons fall to 4-8 on the season. But I think that you called out some positive things. So you know what? We'll try to do a little bit of a therapy session here, and let's start there with the positive, because you did call out a positive on the defense. Special teams before it wasn't for Bradley Pinion. What were some of the things you saw in what the players were actually able to do? And I want to start with the players because I know we'll talk about coach in a second. But what were some of the things that you saw that actually did go well, especially in that first half when the defense was essentially able to pitch a shutout?
Yeah, I thought the coverage did a good job. They were able to get some pressure with 4 guys in the first half, right? That was a big question going into this week,
Yes.
was whether
Yes.
or not they'd be able to get reliable pressure with 4 in this game. I thought for a chunk of the game they were, and then at a certain point they were like, okay, we haven't gotten pressure with 4 on a couple of these third downs, which led to the Jets' success, and so let's dial up some blitzes and try to disrupt things. And that was effective for a time. So I do feel like the defense came out, played reasonably well in the first half. Were able, the Jets had some success moving the football, but when the defense needed to get a stop, they were able to consistently get a stop in that first half. And another person I'll call out in positive, James Pearce. He had a nice solid game, and it was wondering like, okay, were you just beating up on a bad right tackle last week against Asim Richards, and this week you're going up against Armand Minbu, who's a very promising rookie right tackle, and he was able to beat up on him in this game and get some effective pressure. So a positive step for James Pearce, not just beating up on backup offensive tackles as he has so thoroughly this season, and we've enjoyed every second of it. But nice to see him, beating up on a good offensive tackle for once as well.
Yeah. And James Pearce Jr. ends the day with 2 tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss, and a QB hit. But certainly, as you mentioned, his impact more than just what we're seeing in the box score. For you, Jarvis, when you look at some of the positives, especially in that first half and what Jeff Ulbricht's unit was able to do, what were some of the positive plays you saw? What were some of the positive performances you saw from this defense?
Yeah, for me, I like what I saw in the first half from a coverage standpoint, right? I'm not gonna mention the other guy. I'm removing him from the guy that's opposite AJ Terrell. I'm removing him from my brain right now because I'm trying to remain positive. So,
don't worry, I'll let you go down that rabbit hole in a few minutes.
We're gonna get to you in a second. We're gonna get to you in a second.
We'll
You know what I'm
talking
about. You know what I'm talking about. Take that number off too. You're embarrassing us. I think that Free, don't do that. Free, don't do that. I'm trying to stay positive.
Okay. Do you?
So, I'm gonna take this time to acknowledge my guy, the vet, the offer, for the sticky coverage that he had, being aggressive, being there when being right by the wide receiver when he catches the football. If he does make the catch, he's right there making a play on the football or trying to make a play on the football. It's okay for the ball to be caught on you, but and I think this is one thing I've always liked about him. Even if he does catch the ball gets caught on him, he's right there to make the tackle. Most of the time. And I love that consistency from him. So I thought that he did an excellent job. I thought Xavier Watts had some good plays as well. I thought Jesse Bates had a couple of good plays today, and you think about that aspect of the game and that the back end of this defense, which we thought would be a real strong suit for this team, until you start dealing with a lot of injuries or whatever. Of course, you had a little drop off, but when you think about what we saw last week against the Saints, and now fast forward to this first half of this particular game, I really like what I saw just from a sticky coverage standpoint. And I thought that those guys were, there was a good game plan, and those guys were right where Jeff Ulbricht wanted them to be, and they were making plays from time to time. But like I said, there were catches made, but they were right there where they needed to be. And I will always appreciate that, regardless of the result.
Yeah, and D. Alford among the leaders on this defense today with 5 tackles and a tackle for loss, a pass defense. And really, I think, too, maybe more importantly, Jarvis, the fact that when you heard the news that a Billy Bowman Jr. would be down for the count, it probably shook you because Billy Bowman had been playing pretty darn well, but it looks like Alford he's doing a fine job in nickel. And I don't want to say that it's a complete kind of one-to-one replacement, but certainly D. Alford has done his part to kind of make you feel like, hey, this secondary is not really missing a beat, at least before we talk about one of the other members of the secondary, because Free, it sounds like we'll give Jarvis a moment in a second, but sounds like that's definitely an area that was of serious frustration to him, because the bottom line is this: as good as we saw that defense show up at times and certain players show up at times in the first half, was as not so good as things turned out in the second half. Not saying that it was all their fault, but ultimately speaking, what happened in that second half such that the Jets kind of had their way and were able to battle their way back into this game and ultimately win it? What happened on defense?
Yeah, you talk about the first 3 quarters of this game, and you can, outside of the play that Jarvis is about, we're going to clear the court and let Jarvis play some ISO ball here. When he talks about number 21, you look at most of the missteps that the Falcons had. A lot of it was contributed by the special teams, right? The big return that, and the defense gets a stop to get the field goal, settle for a field goal when the Jets easily could have scored on that particular drive. But, the Jets kept shooting themselves in the foot with 2 would-be touchdowns that were basically not converted there. Mm-hmm. And so, you look at the defense, okay, good enough. And then in the fourth quarter, when you kind of needed the defense to kind of step up, especially after the Falcons took that 24-17 lead, and then the Jets go on a 7-minute scoring drive. They're able to convert, third down. They're able to convert a fourth down. And basically all the progress that you've shown from the defense up to that point, they kind of ran out of gas, if you could say, at that point. And when you needed them to go, okay, go out there, get us a stop so that we can go out there and win this football game, they weren't able to do that. And so the Jets tied up. Now, obviously, the offense has 2 more opportunities to go down the field and score. The offense fails on that opportunity. The defense gets a stop on one of those drives, but then, of course, special teams contributes to set up the Jets in positive field position, and then the defense lets down. And so, I think a couple of things really hurt this team. When I look back at that one drive, you just couldn't get off the field on third down. You had a couple of times where Tyrod was able to just kind of scramble, and we've seen this defense struggle against mobile quarterbacks all season long, throughout this season, and that issue kind of reared its ugly head. And it's really disappointing just because, you had both your healthy linebackers that are supposed to be the answer to that. You have added all this speed and athleticism up front that are supposed to be the answer to that. And there have been moments this season where this team has done a good job being disciplined in their rush and not letting the quarterback get outside the pocket, and as well as guys tracking down, scrambling quarterbacks on the second level and whatnot. And you had some opportunities to make those plays again today. And unfortunately, the defense could not make those plays. And unfortunately, Tyrod, who's, basically the same age as Kirk Cousins, so is not quite the scrambler that he was in his prime of his NFL career.
I can tell.
Was out there running like he was 28-year-old Tyrod instead of 35-year-old Tyrod at this point in his career. And his legs really kind of, in a lot of ways, kind of won the Jets the game late with a couple of critical plays that he had in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, Aaron, because you look at, meaning the way that the defense was kind of worn down, because when you look at time of possession, it wouldn't necessarily indicate that. But oftentimes we know, especially when you get to the waning moments of the game, things start to wear you down, right? And you look at that 15-play drive that took almost 7 minutes off the clock. And that's the kind of thing to where, your legs get a little bit tired late, and, you're not that same defense that you were able to be in that first half, because now, you're moving a little bit slower, like you're, I'm using a basketball terminology here, but you're pulling on the shorts, you're tugging on the shorts, you're just kind of out of gas. But you kind of saw that defense for the Atlanta Falcons kind of wear down, Jarvis, towards the end. But for you, when you look at that, whether it's getting worn down or whether you look at them having miscues, if you will, what happened to this Falcons defense in this second half?
I think for me, and I'll start up front because that's kind of, I have to start there. I think the interior defensive line got their butts kicked by the Jets. Interior offensive line, they erased them. I saw it. You had a couple splash plays with had one good play from David Onyemata. Mm-hmm. I thought he got some time. He made a TFL. But outside of that, nothing. Absolutely nothing. You got Leonard Floyd screaming off the edge, barely missing a sack. As soon as he saw that Tyrod Taylor started stepping in the pocket, defense tackles nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. I go back to that sack by James Pearce Jr. where he almost missed the sack because he wanted to kind of jump inside a little bit too quick, but he had a rush from on Abicadia on the other side, which had he squeezed doggone Tyrod Taylor, and James Pearce Jr. just continued to squeeze his man in. As soon as he finally made, finally made a decision to step up in the pocket, he was right there just to put him down on the ground. That's what I'm talking about when he's talking about rushing as a unit. They did not do that today. They did not help their edge rushers out at all, because when they did get pressure, or when they did try to get a chance, get close enough to try to put Tyrod Taylor on the ground, he was able to step up with ease. And then when you think about extending plays like that, that will hurt you more so than those explosives, because what that does is that extends drives. It keeps you on the field. Like, because you can make an adjustment off an explosive play like that touchdown to my Hughes, but they didn't make the adjustment that I wanted. I wanted him to get him out the game. Like dog. Because he is not playing corner. He's just out there. He's just out there. So, when I need somebody that's going to at least try to make plays on the ball, try to get engaged in the tackling out there, it was just absolutely awful. But I think that when you talk about what happened in the second half, defensive line wasn't helping out the edge rushers. So Tyrod Taylor all he had to do was worry about the edge guys. Okay, you running past me? Cool. I'm going to get outside this pocket, make the throw. If I can't, if there's nobody open, I'm going to take off running, because my linebackers aren't paying attention to what's going on, and they aren't able to make the open field tackle today. So, yeah, that's what happened. Like, because when you have a good showing in the first half, a lot of times guys kind of, like, all right, cool, we're just going to go out here and do what we did in the first half, and then we're going to be good. No, the team's going to make adjustments. Like, you can take some of what you did that was successful, and then, like, okay, then you start to have a conversation as to whether or not, like, all right, if they start to do this, here's what we're going to do. And that adjustment was never made.
Yeah. Well, another magnificent performance by the master, all for naught. We'll discuss. This episode of our Falcon Squad Show is brought to you by Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. So you pull up the app and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. You can pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print, and the seat view feature is a game changer. You literally see what the pitch looks like from your exact seat before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply, but again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. Game Time. So, guys, look at offense. And it's so frustrating when you see a phenomenal performance like what we saw from Bijan Robinson today, right? You're thinking to yourself, and of course, you're also looking at it from the perspective of this is what should get you wins, especially thinking about him averaging, or let's go with his scrimmage yards, if you will. So Bijan Robinson was like a monster in getting 142 yards on the ground, averaging over 6 yards a carry, and then over 10 yards per reception, 51 yards in the air. I mean, just another one of his amazing multi-purpose days. And I just want to start there in asking you guys first to, at least in the positive, Jarvis, talk about Bijan Robinson and the fact that once again, even though it was not a bright day in the general scheme of things, Bijan gets a touchdown on the ground, does what Bijan does, and still had an amazing day.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one bright spot, right? When you think about what this offense wants to do, the foundation of this offense, and they want to be able to run the football and be able to establish that, especially with Kirk Cousins, under center and them actually running play action, and that being a part of the game plan coming into this matchup against excuse me. Oh my gosh. Coming up against this matchup against the New York Jets. So for me, I think that being the base of this offense, and you saw there was some flow from time to time with this offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
The play action made sense, right? It was they were in the same formation when they had success, turned around and handed it off. So, that was familiar to those linebackers to step up in the hole and for him to come out of it and pull out of it and find somebody down the field. David Seals making a play in the first half, actually catching the football that time and not following his blocks and being able to still find a way to get in the end zone. It's just that looked good. That looked promising. So for me, it just kind of makes you even more mad, right? Because you found success, and then all of a sudden you just start crapping the bed when you needed to make a play, when it was time for you to make a play. Your defense got to stop. James Pearce Jr. actually put Tyrod Taylor on the ground and, got off to a really good start in that drive and forced him to punt. It's just like they can't never get everything working out at the same time. And you got to think now, I know a lot of people have been thinking about it. It's just like, okay, if you can't get everybody to be in sync, all on the same page throughout the game, then what are you really doing?
Yeah, because you can look at what Tyler Algier was able to do, getting a touchdown on the ground, and not that his numbers were bangers like world changers or world beaters, but still, when you can punch it in the end zone and you're the Falcons, that's incredible. And then two, I know this may not be something to talk about for the long term, but when you look at Kyle Pitts getting 7 receptions on 8 targets and averaging almost 12 yards and having an explosive in there, a couple of near explosives in there, it feels like, like Jarvis said, it's a waste because he's the guy where you're looking, hey, step up, do something, catch the ball when you're supposed to. And now you get that from him. So I at least wanted to acknowledge that you got it out of him, although it didn't really matter in the end.
Yeah, it's funny, T, because like for the longest time during that 5-game losing streak, it was like, hey, Bijan's looking good and Drake London's looking good and nobody else is looking good. And today it was like Kyle during that entire stretch was just like not, he went back to being 2024 inconsistent Kyle where you needed him to make some catches. He wasn't making those catches. And today it was like, oh, Kyle, it's nice to see you. I haven't really seen you since that 49ers game, where you played well football. But it's like, again, you still have 2 guys kind of as your offense. And, as you said, Tyler Algier had his moments. So don't get me wrong. But like what this team really needs is like a third guy that you can say steps up in a major way. And you have these moments. You have that one David Sills touchdown right on the screen pass where he does a great job, right? You have a moment from Darnell Mooney early in the game, but late in the game, when those guys need to step up and make plays in the final minutes of the game, passes go right through their hands, right? And so what you really have is like this 2-headed monster. And if you had gotten your third phase of the game, special teams, to play better, that probably would have been good enough to win this game against this Jets team. But unfortunately, you need a little bit more from all 3 phases on this team. And this offense just has not been able to find a way to consistently get more from those secondary players, right? It's like Bijan, usually it's Drake, but because he's injured, this week it was Kyle, last week it was Darnell Mooney or whatever. And you just need one other guy to kind of step up and be like, okay, when my number is called, I'm going to make the plays that I need to make. And you can kind of say that was Tyler Algier today, but unfortunately his number wasn't called enough. And because Bijan was doing such a great job, both as a pass catcher and a running back, that like Algier's addition is nice. It's more, stat padding, I guess you could say, as opposed to like, oh, this is the thing that's kind of driving this thing. You needed another pass catcher, really, in my opinion, to kind of make those plays. And the Falcons just couldn't get it. And that's why, to me, they ultimately kind of fall short. And this has been a through line throughout this season of all these close games where it's like they find a way to lose just because you're not able to get the most out of that third option in your offense, particularly in the passing game. And it's like, until you fix that problem, we're going to get repeats of all these games where it's like, it's almost, but you come up a little short.
Yeah, because when you look at, and that goes back to just how we talked about Bradley Pinion on special teams, just how we talked about the defense today. It's the same thing on offense, meaning, I'm going to use your term, Free, the through line, which is, but in the critical moments, you can't get it done. You're talking about the Falcons basically being at their own 33. Kyle Pitts, you can't catch a ball. David Sills, you can't catch a ball. Darnell Mooney, you can't catch a ball. And all of a sudden, we're having a different conversation. And you know it at that moment. Like when you get that 3 and out, you pretty much know, yeah, that's going to be game, right? But Jarvis, we talked about Marquis Williams and how much of this falls on him. And you could ask the same question about Zach Robinson, because if he called a good game and he was able to use some of the tools in the toolkit or the tricks in the toolkit with Kirk Cousins that maybe he hasn't been able to use previously, but then on that final drive where you just want to get in position to get a field goal and run some time off the clock, et cetera, and just make it so that the Jets don't have the opportunity to get the ball back or get the win. I mean, you called 3 pass plays?
Yeah.
John Robinson is the best player arguably on the field, for sure on your team. And you call 3 pass plays. And actually, Jarvis, not only do you call 3 pass plays, but none of them go to him.
I think, being inconsistent, right, when in your play calling has showed up. It showed up early in the game when you decided to put Felipe Franks at quarterback, move Kirk Cousins out in the fullback, and do a toss play to Tyler Algier. Why does that make sense? Like, explain to me how that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Tyler Algier is a downhill running back. Are you think you're going to trick someone? It's 3rd and 1. And you have Felipe Franks under center. So they know you're not going to pass the football. Right. That is the most, I tweeted out at the time. I said, oh, that was real cute. And that's not a compliment at all. At all. We talked about having success in the run game and how that was a bright spot for you. And that hasn't been the case for a lot of this season. That's probably the reason why you lost so many games. And in a moment where everybody in the stadium would have been okay if you had to run the football, you decide to put your power back in that running back and run a toss. I would have been okay if you just turn around and hand it off and dive it, man. Like, come on, what we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? I don't understand that. That makes no sense to me. So, and that's what Zach has been this year.
Yeah.
He's been that. So I try not to get upset about it. I know you probably can't tell, but this is what it is. These cats have shown us to be this way throughout the entire season. So I can throw Zach under the bus, but man, there were plays to be made. The Darnell Mooney with the shot stabbing that catch, man, he could probably still be running. He's still running right now if he catch that football. Because Isaiah Oliver broke on it, but it was right there. It was right there in your hands. Like, this is Chicago. This is Chicago, Darnell. Yeah. Chicago, Darnell. This is them. That's who showed up this year. The guy that last year, I don't know where he is. He gone. Him gone. I don't know where he is. So yeah, I can give Zach Robinson some blame. I can place blame on him. Sure. I mean, yeah, I can place blame on him probably every game, just looking at different plays and all that stuff. But hey, David Seals, bruh, catch the ball. That's a first down. You moving the sticks. Catch the ball. It's right there. So yeah, I can place the blame on everybody. You know, like that's a valid answer.
Around for sure.
Right. Jarvis, to give these guys the benefit that David Sills was like, wait, a throw to me over the middle of the field? I haven't seen this all season long. So he didn't think that was going to go to him. And then Zach, of course, with the play call, it was like, well, no one's going to expect us with Felipe Franks in the center not to QB sneak it and then not run downhill with Tyler Algier. No one's going to expect this to happen. So we're going to catch them sleeping. And then, of course, the rookie, Azarie Thomas, was like, "Oh, I'm wide awake. I got this.
Oh, I can just dive at your legs, and I know you."
Yeah. It's like the one time Tyler Algier doesn't truck a quarterback is on that particular play. It's like, okay, yeah, this ain't the Falcons' day. That's kind of what it is. This is not going to be the Falcons' day. On that, yeah. So I echo the sentiments of Jarvis. Like, absolutely, Zach Robinson. This has been the through line where it's just like there's always going to be a couple of head scratchers, particularly in short yardage. It seems like every single week in critical 3rd and 1 situations where he's trying to outsmart people. He's trying to go against type. He's trying to run a play that the Falcons haven't run before. And it's like, yeah, you could tell that they haven't run that play before because they don't execute the play. And then, and there's other moments in the games where it's like he calls up the play, it's there. And then some receiver drops the football. Darnell Mooney, I mean, this feels like the 5th time this season where he's had a potential, do or die catch late in the game that could have extended the Falcons drive to get them a win. And he doesn't come up with the play. And this is, as Jarvis said, this has been a consistent inconsistency in this offense.
Yeah. And consistently inconsistent has been at the feet of the players, at the feet of the coordinators. And when we come back, we'll talk about it being at the feet of the coach. So, Aaron, last week we went back into Jarvis's happy place and we were able to give away game balls. Like you and I were like, oh, yeah, wait, we haven't done it in so long. Oh yeah, let's do it. Okay, well, today we're going to do the polar opposite of that, by the way, unless, you guys want to give away 1 or 2 game balls that probably could be justifiable. But ultimately, before we do that, talked about Zach Robinson, Jeff Ulbrich, Marquis Williams, the games that they called today. But then you look at a few things that are a little bit of a head scratcher there as well. And that is kind of Raheem Morris and where he falls on this loss, because you could attribute, once again, and we've had this conversation before, how Morris manages that clock late. So what can you say about him and just in terms of how he managed this game? And as a result, the Falcons managed to get yet another loss.
I mean, what can I say about Raheem Morris's game management? This is what we're talking about. I can't remember if it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, where it was just like when we're sitting here trying to talk about, should we fire Marquis Williams or should we fire Zach Robinson and bring back Raheem? And I'm like, what is it that Raheem does that we're sitting here to bring like that we need that in Atlanta in 2026?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a continuation of that. And I'm just like, okay, Raheem, what are you bringing to the table? What is the sort of thing that Raheem Morris does, whether it's clock management, whether it's, calling the timeouts, whether it's, winning challenges or whatever, whether it's getting his players motivated to play, whether it's coming up with a good game plan on either side of the ball. Like that has been something that has been elusive all throughout the season. And it's just like until you start showing me that you bring something to the table, this notion of like, oh, well, we just need to tweak it. We need to hire a couple of new coordinators and we'll be right back in the mix. And I'm just like, based off of what? Like what is it that basically, I'm at a point where it's just like, as we talked about at the top of the show, like I'm looking at this Jets team that everybody knows is in rebuild mode as they try to sort of rebuild this and hope that they can kind of echo, heard it on the broadcast today, where it's like they're trying to do the same thing that the Lions did when Dan Campbell got there and Aaron Glenn first got there, where they start off slow and then they slowly build. And I'm just like, why shouldn't the Falcons be in that exact situation a year from now? Because the current path, where is it going? Like, is this team on a path to success? Do I feel like, well, third time's a charm with Raheem? He's going to get, the Arthur Smith treatment where he gets 3 years, where Arthur Smith failed with Matt Ryan in year one to resurrect the veteran quarterback, then had the bridge quarterback and Marcus Mariota, and then put it all on the young quarterback and Desmond Ridder. And now with Raheem, it's like, okay, Kirk Cousins is his Matt Ryan with the veteran quarterback. Michael Penix is his Desmond Ridder, and he's going to be coming off an injury next year. And so we're just like, okay, well, you get a third, all's fair, and you got to get your Marcus Mariota. I'm just like, no, that ain't going to work. So I sit here, basically all that to say is like, what's stopping this team from cleaning house at the end of the season and just starting all over and giving somebody else another opportunity at this point in time? And Raheem is doing nothing at this point, in my opinion, to sort of beat the allegations. Yeah.
And what about for you, from what you saw out of Raheem today, Jarvis?
Yeah. So I talked about earlier, like the disconnect that special teams, offense and defense has. Like when one needs the other to make a play, they fail each other every time. And I think that Ra seemingly doesn't have the ability to bring all of it together, because you're supposed to be the connective tissue between those three units to say, all right, man, in these particular moments, or bringing your guys together saying, hey, here's what we need to happen on this particular, in this moment, right? Or it was having conversations with Zach, like, hey, Zach, let's make sure we're doing X, blah, 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 because we need to get a first down here so we can potentially get in position to get a field goal. It's all about the communication. And I don't see that, or I don't see the result of it right on the field. We just, because it's been consistent that the special teams makes a good play or has a good punt, defense gives up an explosive play, or they allow the offense to move the ball down the field to the point where you're going to put your offense in bad field position. Defense may get a stop, but you stop them on the 50-yard line, and you got a punt. So it's just so many things that we have questions about. Every unit has been questioned at some point during this season. The defense has been the most consistent, right? Yeah. They've been the unit that you count on, and that was unexpected. So I give Jeff Ulbrich his flowers in that moment, but it's just too many fires that Raheem has to put out, and they haven't been put out. They've just been burning, and when you aren't able to figure out how to put those fires as the head coach, it's like Free said, what are you doing? Like, we're going to get to a point now where somebody in that office, that HR, is like, hey, man, what your hours look like? You're going to start filling out a timesheet at some point. Because, like, bro, what are you doing? If you're not calling the defensive play and being a defensive coordinator for this team and the head coach, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I need to see your timesheet. You need to report to me about your daily. What's your daily schedule look like? Like, those are some of the conversations that we have in the corporate world, right? So there's no checks and balances as to what he's doing as a head coach of this team, and outside of at the press conferences saying, hey, man, we got to figure out a way to win. Well, you found a way to you're good at finding ways to lose. And there's nothing you can do about it at this point.
At least, I was about to say, at least in the immediate. But Free, we will humor Jarvis because it is something that he wanted us to do today. So let's give our guy a little something on our way out, and that is no balls. Now, last week, We were excited because we brought game balls back. We had game balls on offense, defense, special teams. And I mean, you could argue definitely if no one else got a game ball this week, Bijan Robinson certainly earned a game ball. But yeah, this is going to be a no balls week. So for you, offense, defense, special teams, who gets the dubious distinction?
Whew, so many to pick from, T. Like
embarrassment of riches in the wrong direction.
It's like, okay. It's like, I know who I would praise for this game. Pretty much everybody else. I'm like, what is it that you do here? Because I don't see you doing much in this game. Oh man. Whew, how do I
Where do you begin?
It's got to be Darnell Mooney. Like, it's just like we're still having this conversation about Darnell Mooney. Like, catch the stinking ball, man. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like, why is it? Again, we're talking about Raheem. What is it that you do, Darnell? What is it that you do here? Because you're not here to block. You're not here to generate explosive plays down the field. You're not here to move the chains. What is it that you do? So no balls to Darnell Mooney right now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You only got to ask me. Yeah.
And before you go there, Jarvis, I just want to co-sign because I think Aaron makes a great point, and you kind of alluded to it earlier as well. Like the Falcons didn't need Chicago Darnell to show up. The Falcons desperately needed the Falcons Darnell Mooney to show up, the one we saw last year that was a hair away from 1,000 yards. Like, that's what you needed to see, right? And we shouldn't be having a conversation this deep in this season where by now, I mean, I know everybody's all the players are kind of trending towards being banged up, but when I say what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Like, he may not have started the season at 100%, but at some point you should have gotten there. But we shouldn't be having a conversation where Devin Tompkins has the same number of receptions and David Sills has the same number of receptions, but with Devin Tompkins, 2 receptions on 2 targets. David Sills, 2 receptions on 4 targets. But that's what we can expect of them. Darnell Mooney, you're technically supposed to be the number 2, and really without a Drake London in the lineup, then the expectation is that you need to operate like a number 1. We shouldn't be having this conversation at this point in the season where you're still 2 of 5 on receptions to targets. But most importantly, one of those 3 that you dropped was at the most critical moment in the game.
And we've seen that before, T.
Yes.
We've seen it before, like against New England, against the Patriots. Yeah, they had a critical drop late in the game. No, man, like, you're a vet. We're not supposed to be having this conversation. No. So, yeah, I don't know what to say about him. And, when we have these type of conversations this late in your career,
yes,
you know what time it is.
Yeah,
you know what time it is. But I think my no balls goes to Mike Hughes. This man was playing 2-hand touch today. Apparently, he don't know that you have pads on, and the idea for you playing corner in the NFL is to stick with your man, and then when the ball comes your way, you're in position to at least make a play on the football. That never happened. Only thing I remember watching this game live is number 21 coming up, tagging a man down to make sure he doesn't get up and run the football anymore. So when was he ever in position to make a play on the football? And then on that deep ball to Darnell Mitchell, 51 yard pass to, by the way, that was the Jets' longest play of the year. A
lot of firsts today for the Jets.
A lot of firsts.
Yeah.
A lot of firsts. You're the first. Yeah, so is it
that's the thing
you're giving out hope.
Last couple of weeks too. History making games, Bryce Young, and but go ahead, Jarvis. Yeah.
The Falcons don't do anything but take hope away from us and give it to the other team. Aaron Glenn is probably going to keep his job because of this game right here. Oh, we love the way I had my guys. We love the way Aaron Glenn, had his guys fighting ownership of the Jets. We love the way he sustained himself, even though the guys that, the old kicker, missed the field goal and all that stuff. He came back and, Aaron Glenn had a conversation with him right before, hey, man, I need you to make this kick now. I can keep a job. He was saying all the right things. He was challenging all the right things. You're just giving this team hope. I got a text from our old boss, Sean Thompson. He's like, man, all right, just got to win. I ain't think they were going to happen. Yeah, because I was expecting them to lose. Same way, same field. But they're playing against the Falcons. Hey, man, Falcons passing our hope. Not to their fan base, though. But, yeah, man, no balls to Mike Hughes. Like this, I know Free was already out on him pretty early. And God bless you for that because, man, it is time. This Mike Hughes experience got to go. It's done. Like you're just there and you're collecting a nice check too. I never like to bring up guys run folks' pockets, but man, bro, you stealing the money. You stealing money, bro.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, not the way that Falcons fans wanted to end the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, but we're still thankful for you, our everydayers, for making the Falcon Squad show your first listen of the day. So be sure to stop by Locked On Falcons with your host, Aaron Freeman, for more post-game coverage shortly. And of course, our squad show and Locked On Falcons are both part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll see you next time.